So this is pretty much how I imagine it went down. The setting, a Warner Brothers boardroom. The timing is right after the Avengers made like $1 bajillion in theaters. The thought they had was, oh dang, we have to catch up really, really fast. And the result was Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. But was it successful? I'm Johnny Barlow, and this is Critical Hit. So, first things first as always, let's start off with the hits. First thing worth mentioning is Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. Sure, fans were all up in arms when his casting was announced because, oh my goodness, he was terrible in Daredevil and he's never gonna be any good as Batman. But I honestly loved what they did with his character in this movie. You really got the sense that this was a Batman who had been dealing with crime in Gotham for years upon years and was just getting worn down and sick and tired of dealing with it, and as a result he's willing to go to a little bit more extreme measures when putting down that crime. Sure, some longtime Batman fans might have difficulty with just how brutal he gets at times, but I enjoyed this take on the character. Hit number 2, Wonder Woman. Rather than coming straight out of the gate and being like, yo, hey, I'm another superhero, Diana Prince actually kind of floats through Batman's storyline as this mystery that he's trying to solve. He keeps running into her at like fancy events when he's being all Bruce Wayne-y, but he can tell that there's something up because she's essentially following him and seemingly kind of controverting his efforts in solving a mystery throughout the rest of the movie. Eventually he finds out who she is, etc., etc. She joins the team, huzzah. But I just thought it was a nice kind of side plot to distract from the mess that is the rest of the plot. We'll get to that in a second. And finally, the third great thing about this movie is just kind of that overall Batman storyline. Essentially, he spends the first half of the movie trying to stop this international arms dealer, and eventually, of course, that plot gets tied into the overarching plot and it gets completely muddled and you're like, what? But when it's just Batman doing his Batman thing with the help of Alfred, who I really liked, it's great, and it makes me honestly wish that they had just left it as a Batman movie. Moving on to the crits. As I briefly alluded to before, the overarching plot of this movie is a complete mess. I'm gonna be honest, the first 2/3 of the film don't really make any sense. Think of it less as an overarching story and more as a bunch of set pieces tied together just to look really, really cool. Crit number 2, Lex Luthor. Much has been said of Jesse Eisenberg and his portrayal of Lex in this film, and I probably don't need to repeat most of it. You can tell from the trailers that he's pretty much absolutely insane. What I'm not okay with is the fact that he is so clearly insane, and yet all kinds of people just go along with what he wants. No one in their right mind would do that. He's a cool character, but his role in the movie just doesn't work for me. And finally, I must warn you that my third criticism has a few spoilers, so click here if you want to skip those. I'll wait for like 5 seconds. Okay. I'm done. Doomsday. First off, his design is so generically bad, it's not even funny. He's just this big gray humanoid with like some funny spikes. Second, his power set is never explained, so we have no way of knowing why he's such a huge threat to Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And it's pretty much just some forced plot device to make the 3 main superheroes team up for one final battle. So that's that. Moving on from there, just a few other bits worth mentioning. The Justice League. A lot of people were afraid that this movie was going to suffer from Spider-Man 3 syndrome, where it just shoved a bunch of characters in. Pleasantly surprisingly though, that was a double adverb, which was kind of weird. As a pleasant surprise, most of the Justice League is really just hinted at through most of the film. Wonder Woman instead kind of acts as this anchor that ties in the other characters. It's enough to really pique your interest. One hint in particular I thought was super duper cool and has me intrigued for the future of the series. And finally, something almost completely unrelated. You've seen in the trailers that there is this scene where Batman is being held captive by Superman and he like rips his mask off and there's all these like weird guards bearing Superman's logo and it's in the desert. I don't want to reveal anything about where that scene fits into the plot, but I will say that I would watch an entire movie that was just that. It is so stinking cool and I want to see more. And maybe we will in the future of the DC cinematic universe. Who knows? So, taking all of those things together, it's kind of difficult to come up with a score because on the one hand, this movie by itself is seriously flawed, but it has some really cool characters and some really cool ideas, and I think it does a great job setting up the future of the Justice League. So, on an almost completely objective basis, how much I would recommend you see this movie? 3 out of 5 stars. Sure, the critics may be hating it, but audiences seem to be loving it. It's Batman and Superman. Honestly, Batman is really why I would see this movie. Don't even worry about the Superman garbage. So that's that. Not a lot of movies coming out next week, so I'm not sure if I'll have a review then. Maybe I'll go see Zootopia because I still haven't seen that. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you don't miss any other announcements I might make. And I will see you next time on Critical Hit.